This is a case where the SAT is asking for something very, very simple, but doing it in their weird, bizarre way for no really good reason, right? Just mostly to mess with you. They're actually giving us more information than we need to solve this question, but basically you can look at it two different ways, and there is an easier way in my opinion, but you have to recognize that they're talking about slope in one way, right? So here, let's just read it. The relationship between two variables x and y is linear, so means it's a line. For every increase in the value of x by 1, the value of y increases by 8. That is a description of slope. So we could think about that, and maybe some of you already know what the answer is just from that, and that's okay. But I do feel like that part of this question has the chance of error. Maybe not in this case, but they could have phrased that in slightly different ways to make us more likely to make a mistake. Whereas the next part is pretty straightforward. When the value of x is 2, the value of y is 18. That's a point, right? So we're always thinking about plug points into equations, right? That's our main math strategy. We very clearly have equations, so we're looking for points. And they gave us one. Now, of course, they didn't put it in the way that we would expect, 2, 18, which is how we think about a point, but it's still written in those terms, right? We have an x coordinate of 2, a y coordinate of 18, so just plug that point into equations. And my hope is that if you're thinking about plug points into equations throughout the entire test, that when they word it in strange ways, it doesn't bother you because you're always on the lookout. Where can I get a point to plug into my equations? So now you can probably just do this in your head. I'll show you a little bit of the work on the page. Basically, we're looking for 18 to be the value of y when we plug in 2. So this would be 4 plus 18, right? That's not 18. This would be 4 plus 8. That's 12, so that doesn't work either. This would be 16 plus 2. That works, but let's make sure. And then this would be 6 plus 26. Doesn't work either. So I don't even know where these other answers come from. But yeah, C is it. Now, maybe in hindsight, we can more easily understand what this means, right? So if we do have a slope, slope is always change in y over change in x, right? So the change in y, right, is plus 8. They just tell us that. And then the change in x is plus 1. So that is a slope of 8 over 1, or what we would just see in our equation as 8. And only choice C has that. So that's why if you understood the way that they were talking about slope, you could have gotten this just with that. But they gave us more information than we needed. And, you know, I always believe that slope is slightly riskier to think about than just a point in an equation, because with slope, there's change, there's different ways that they might phrase it. It's just, there's just more room for error. It's just a little bit harder for our brain to comprehend the idea of change, whereas a point is not change, right? It's just a static place. And so that's maybe a little bit easier for us because it's just one thing, whereas slope is 2 points, right? We have to think the difference between them. So just in general, though, you should always be thinking about plug points into equations as you go through the test. Hopefully then, if that's on your mind, you're much more likely to notice when they give you points in equations, even when they do it like they did here in a slightly weirder way.